With Khashoggi's murder in question once again, we're joined by former UK MP George Galloway to discuss. All right, George, to be honest, I was expecting a little bit more from President Erdogan at this stage, considering all the talk of a big reveal coming down today. What was your reaction to his speech?
Well, Erdogan is definitely doing the dance of the seven veils. Who knows when the final veil will be revealed and cast off, but there's no doubt that he's got the goods. I know for certain, because someone close to me has heard the goods, that he has them. He's
Meaning the
negotiating,
tapes?
I presume, behind the scenes. The price will be going up because, frankly, if this audio is released, if the full picture is released, it'll be the most devastating video and audio of the 21st century. It's said that the Crown Prince himself had a conversation, a Skype conversation, with Khashoggi before he was executed, and it's said that the chief of the Crown Prince's office gave the order over Skype to bring me the head of the dog. All of this, of course, utterly devastating to the West's key ally in the war on Yemen, in the war on Syria, and key bankroller of Western politicians and media outlets all over the world. Doesn't get much more serious than this. Shakespeare couldn't have written this story. It's Macbeth on steroids, right down to the poor son of Khashoggi being forced to go to the royal palace today and shake hands with the murderers of his own father.
Those images were quite shocking, yes. This case still, though, reminds me a bit of some other more recent examples like the Skripal affair, where every time we're promised more details, we get a bit more confused. Do you still have any questions left unresolved about this case?
No, breaking news is that the face of Khashoggi has been found under the ground in the garden of the consulate. And I've just written an op-ed for RT.com, it'll be out this evening, on the meaning of that. The Saudi regime is now faced with burying the face of one of its critics, who was only marginally, by the way, a critic.
Right.
Khashoggi was a supporter of the Saudi line in most cases.
Yeah, that's a key point, because he's been really branded as a dissident writer, but we know from just looking at his writings that he was very recently, for example, advocating for the partitioning of Syria, which is something that has been a goal of U.S. and Saudi policy. How can we expect justice to come through in this case? What would you like to see the international community do, and what do you think is a realistic outcome?
Well, I'm going out on a limb here. I think this story will be the end of MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and could be the end of President Trump, because after Khashoggi himself, Trump is the biggest loser in this affair. You want to talk about Shakespeare, the relations between Trump's extended family and the extended family that runs Saudi Arabia contains a lot of gold nuggets, some of them yet to be revealed. I think this story changes the world, and you certainly would have needed the imagination of Shakespeare to have written that. Of equal importance to me is the scurrying like cockroaches when the light turns up of all these liberal journalists and media outlets that have been on the take from Saudi Arabia. They hoped forever in the darkness. But that's not going to persist for much longer. You're dealing with one of them in your show this evening, Vice, the Friedman and the New York Times, the Washington Post itself, the Guardian, many other outlets in Britain have all been in indecent relations with the Saudi royal family, and they're about to be revealed.
Just very briefly, George, are you worried at all that, they could end up pinning this murder on MBS and then get rid of him and say, well, now everything's fine, back to business as usual with Saudi Arabia?
I think for Western politicians, it will never be business as usual again, never glad, confident morning again. It's now toxic beyond toxicity to have been revealed to be in any kind of relationship with these people. And if they get rid of MBS, put a new crown prince in, maybe even a new king in, they will try to kickstart business as usual. But I think it's curtains, royal curtains for the